it, smack it, let's make a racket. I'm so tough, I always attack it. You know he's a gangster. Sniff it, lick it, put my weeder in it. The way I ball, I cool kick.
That's what we're going to be talking about on this episode of Vice of Life. Well,
yeah, Dad!
not that specifically, but, you know, the man behind the magic, Steve-O. I'm sure you've heard of him. But this is Vice of Life, and we talk about what we want, I guess.
Yeah.
This week it's going to be Steve-O.
Lately, especially lately.
Especially lately.
Stephen Gilchrist Glover.
Gilchrist.
Or Gilchrist, I'm guessing.
It's a weird name.
Yeah.
I'm Logan. That voice you just heard giving us the name is Josh. Big
yeah! I have to be ready for the voice because you have to find it in your throat. It's tricky.
Yeah,
you know?
You find it deep in the soul of your being.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to imagine the being after several years of drug use and.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. When did it happen? When did that voice develop? You know, I guess just hitting the crack pipe or something.
Yeah, was it a slow decline or was it just one day he woke up? He's like, I have a sore throat.
Where's my voice?
It went away.
Yeah,
just never came back one day.
Also joining us via Zoom chat is Eloy. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Doing all right. Oh, nice.
Your voice phased.
Get too excited.
What? Sorry, we're talking over each other. Go ahead.
Just maybe I shouldn't get too excited to start distorting this mic.
Yeah, shit.
Oh boy,
Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, I just found a hole in my pajamas that gives you a straight view of my goods, so I'm going to try to not expose that. Sorry, just a little side note there.
Your pants are under the table. It's okay.
Yeah.
As long as the table doesn't lift or anything, you know.
I can literally poke it right out the hole. It's unsettling.
Well, you could poke the puss is one of these songs.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve-O gave the world. Well, I guess we should talk about what we did before we get into it. I think we're all just so excited. We literally watched the biography of Steve-O right before recording this, so it's all very fresh in our minds. So.
Yeah.
But before that, we're going to tell you what we did in this week of the new normal, as people are saying, the new normal.
It's freaking me out, man. And it really is. Maybe I'll just jump into mine really quick. We did a whole episode on it forever ago about astrology, and that's not going anywhere for me, and I actually want to get into it a lot more, but I've definitely found myself listening to that shit more and more, as all this is going on, and it's interesting, man. We're just getting started, honestly, from that aspect, it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of concerning.
Well, what's ahead?
Well, it's really hard to say. It's really unpredictable, but from what you can see of where this kind of began, this is literally a 9-year cycle, so I'm not really sure what it's going to look like, but yeah.
You can't even give me a forecast, a 70% chance of storms or a 2% chance of storms? You're 2% certain this will happen?
I would have to. It's funny because I'm kind of looking at it retroactively, I guess, in a way, to kind of link up, how relevant is this, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just hard for me to start talking about it because it won't make sense unless I explain what the symbols and the planets are, and it's a whole thing. But the money, our sense of security and income and probably housing and a lot of things are being completely shaken, and that's just beginning, and we're seeing that right now, and it's pretty crazy because the timing of it aligns really well, and Yeah, it's a 9-year thing that we're just beginning. And
So
we're
what
not going to
happened-
go back. Like,
Oh, you're saying the crisis is a 9-year thing, not that
Yeah.
it happens every 9 years.
no, like all these people losing their jobs and not knowing like where's all this income going to come from. Like, it's not going to be that same work till you die, like 9 to 5, climb the corporate ladder. Like, all that stuff is like changing for good. I'm not going to say it's like going away or anything, but I just don't know what I should say. Uranus is in Taurus, and if you know what I'm talking about, you'll go like, huh? But you just don't know.
Uranus is in Taurus.
It's a lot. And then there's a lot, but it's interesting. You know, I'll give you some updates as we go. I'm kind of looking backwards for now, and I'm going to start like trying to go, okay, well, what is that going to look like later? But
All right.
you know what I mean?
I look forward
I'll
to
come back, yeah.
You'll keep a fuck. What do they say in like newsrooms and stuff? We'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah,
We'll keep an eye on that as the weeks come.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have we need to make a little jingle for it,
There you go, yeah.
with like
Kinda
a
cool.
twinkling little like star sounds and stuff.
Yeah, and doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
Also, these nicotine
cute.
toothpicks are nice. Should have just said that, probably.
Oh, it's all good. I mean, there's just so much, you know.
Yeah.
You're struggling to tell us layman's what to get because there's just so much, and we're not.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, I don't fully
a
get it.
professor talking to a kindergartner.
No, I'm hesitating because I don't know enough to like have a real opinion on it yet. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to be too specific, you know,
okay.
because I don't know.
You don't want to nail
fully.
yourself to
Yeah.
a board yet.
Because you're like, that didn't happen, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, so I'm
Hedging
learning.
your bets. You're hedging your bets.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very pragmatic of you. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Gotta be.
Eloy, do you want to go with your update?
Sure. Nothing too crazy. I started watching this show called Lock and Key on Netflix,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just the most infuriating thing I've ever done.
Why?
Or maybe not ever, but in a while. 'Cause I don't know, I kind of fell for it. The first 2 episodes were awful, and I'm like, fuck it. I got nothing better to do. I'll watch the third one. I'm like, it's kind of getting interesting. And it just deteriorates. The people in the show, they're just the dumbest fucking people I've ever seen put to film.
Yeah, I think it was canceled, wasn't it?
No, apparently there's another season coming.
Oh,
Damn.
I misunderstood. I mean, at first, I like the shows where like duality is the main thrust or whatever, and that's kind of what it is, right? With Lock and Key. Or am I wrong? I might be totally confusing that with something else.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But
Lock
I
and
agree
Key-
with that.
Based off of some graphic novel thing that Stephen King's son wrote.
Oh,
And
Joe Hill.
it's basically like this, yeah, Joe Hill. Like this family, their dad dies and they move out to his house, his old childhood home in Massachusetts. And they find all these keys that can like do magical shit. And it's supposed to be like a dark graphic novel. But it's like they changed it down. They toned it down. Sorry. I'm fucking spacey as shit today.
It's not
They
just
toned
you,
it
it's
down
your
so much.
internet too.
It's like watching.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching Riverdale.
Oh boy.
And I've never actually seen Riverdale.
Yeah.
Just all things I've heard of it. Oh my God, this is the most teeny bopper bullshit. But I actually sat and I watched all of it, and I hate myself for it, really.
Wow.
I mean, weren't you a fan of Teen Wolf? And that's basically what that is, right?
Yeah, but that was back when I was a teenager.
That's true. That is true.
So what made you stick to it? You know, because I would have dropped out, man. I don't know how you can do that. Like, just keep watching.
Maybe it was a couple things. I wasn't sure what else I was going to jump in and watch, and also I just wanted to see what kind of dumb shit they would write next. Because I think the writing on this show is just actually awful.
On Lock and Key? Wow.
Oh, this connection, my goodness.
Yeah.
A couple people like we need an episode.
Whoa. Whoa!
Let me fuck around.
I got like two words.
Yeah, this internet is goofy. It is pretty like rainy and stuff today, so it's probably part of it. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
See, this new world is fucked, man. We can't even get consistent internet. What are we gonna do? Not us, but just this is the new means of communication. That's
Exactly.
scary.
Yeah, you guys froze up for a second, but
Yeah.
Maybe it's our internet. I'll do a real quick
Could be.
test here on my phone here. So Lock and Key, you kept watching it because then you cut out.
I kept watching it maybe because of two things. Just to see what kind of dumb shit they would write next, because the writing in the show is just actually awful. And maybe because I just didn't know what else I was going to watch.
Hey, you don't have much else to watch. That is true.
Come on. Oh, you know what? Actually, do you have Hulu?
Yeah,
You should watch Parasite if you haven't already.
Oh, yeah.
I have.
It's really good. Did you like it?
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I loved it, man. Like,
But it's from a Korean guy. Why is he winning the?
I don't know. Yeah, that's true, man. We should.
Fucking
I'm just kidding. No, it was great.
fucking Trump.
Yeah.
The fact, anyways, that's fine. It's crazy that he even commented on it, but
I didn't even know that.
yeah.
Yeah, what is this about?
Trump, at some point around the time that it won, like, the Oscar or whatever, Trump was like, why is it winning? It's from a Korean filmmaker. Like,
Oh,
he was
Jesus
talking
Christ.
about it. It's just like, anyways. It's a good thing that if you guys didn't understand what I was referencing, it's probably a good thing that I do, because I probably didn't have much facetiousness in my voice when I said that. But, okay. So Lock and Key, that's good. Is there anything else?
Not particularly.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I went, as quarantine continues. It's not quarantine. I need to stop saying that. It's technically not quarantine. It's social distancing for us who haven't been exposed, so to speak.
Yeah, true. It's a good distinction. Yeah.
That's true.
So during my social distancing, I went on a walk with my son yesterday.
Nice.
This is we needed to get out of the house, so I forced him to go out of the house, kind of. And then I remembered my mom said she had like an Easter gift waiting for him, and my mom lives about 2.5 miles away. And I was like,
Okay.
"You want to walk there?" And I was just making a joke about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Are you sure?" And he actually did it, and he walked all the way there. He didn't really complain all that much until the way back.
Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, we walked 5 miles together, and I was
Wow.
pretty impressed with him. He
Nice.
we got to my mom's. My mom is funny because she is in the risk group. When she's like, "Are you still being weird about the whole distancing thing?" I'm like, "Listen, you're the only two people in my life that I have to worry about,
Right.
getting really, really bad with this, her and my dad." And she's like, "Oh, well, your dad is." So I'm like, "Oh, well,
Your dad is, not me.
you're kind of getting up there too." I'm just gonna say that. So
I know that is a funny thing. Like, I'm not old. Like,
yeah.
don't tell me I'm at risk. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. That's funny.
But so we kept our distance. She gave him his present and gave him some rolls that she had made, and gave us some creamsicles, those creamies, the banana creamies.
Nice.
And then we walked back.
How did those fare? Or did he eat them there?
On our way back. Well, the rolls I put in my
Okay.
pocket, and then they were frozen.
I
They were
wasn't
frozen
sure if
rolls.
like she loaded you up with ice cream, and so I was gonna ask how that fared on the way home.
Oh, no, it was just one single thing that we ate on the way back.
Okay. Nice.
But it was good. I think it's good to get out. I need to start doing it more, man. My hips
Me too.
were all sore afterwards, and I'm like, they're not that sore today, but tomorrow might be a different thing. But
Yeah.
we'll see. But that's the main thing. I think last week I was talking about how I was kind of over the internship, and I think now I've kind of pulled back from that now, so that's good for me. It's probably some of you who don't have a job right now might be upset with me saying that, but that is the case. And I'm happy for it, so fuck you.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's it, really, for me. You guys got anything else before we get into the topic at hand here?
I don't think so necessarily.
No, nothing to share.
All right. Well, here we go then. We're talking about Steve-O, just his general life, his professional career, not necessarily his whole life story, but the roller coaster that was his life, is his life. So, well, not is. He's a very down-to-earth man now. I think he's got a girlfriend, because I always see those pictures of, like, relationship goals of them in the bathtub or whatever. Have you guys seen that?
They're all naked and
Yeah.
I love that photo. It's just generally well taken.
Yeah, very tasteful, some might say. Tasteful nudity. So he also has that dog. Do you guys know the dog's name? I didn't look. I neglected to look.
I don't remember. I know what you're talking about.
But he found that dog on like a trip abroad.
It's funny, like, there's pre-glasses Steve-O and post-glasses Steve-O, and this is all about pre-glasses Steve-O.
What we're about to talk about?
Yeah, because now he's like, look at me, I'm clean cut, and I look smarter now. Yeah. Like, I'm looking at his website right now at, like, his merch and shit, and he's modeling all the t-shirts, and he's got a big white smile, very white teeth, and clean hair and glasses and clear skin, and
he's
crazy.
He's become a good-looking man in old age.
Yeah.
Yes.
I sent you guys that picture of him as an infant.
Oh, yeah.
He came a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone kind of looks the same throughout their whole life, but it's funny how features can, like, one thing will grow and the other thing will stay the same or shrink or whatever. And he had a big old head as a baby,
Yeah.
Big eyes.
His nose and his ears grew up into his big head.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say everything just stayed the same.
Yeah.
So I guess, again, I'm just going to say we watched the 45-minute documentary-ish kind of thing. I guess it was a documentary. How did you fare, Eloy, with this, by the way? I didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. I hate documentaries.
That's right.
I kind of thought about it going into it, but no, it was a good length for it.
There were a lot of clips of his jackass stunts and stuff, so that probably kept you entertained.
It brought back some nostalgia there because I used to watch Jackass and the movies and everything. So seeing that kind of just kicked me into, oh my god, I remember that, and sent me down this hole.
Oh, did he cut out?
Yeah, I think so.
His dog's name is Wendy, by the way.
Yeah, Wendy the dog. Eloy, I think you got sent down a nostalgia path, is kind of what you were going to say.
Yeah, that's really, I just kept what's the word? Oh, no, I just kept blabbering on about that exact same thing, so.
All right. Well, see, that's different. I never actually saw the Jackass movies. I only saw maybe 1 or 2 episodes of it. But even then, I knew who. One of my notes here is I of the Jackass crew, I only knew Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O, which means those are the two that kind of, at least in my world, pierced the veil, so to speak.
Bam Margera?
Well, Bam too, but he wasn't the original. He kind of came in later, wasn't he?
I don't exactly know the time frames, but
I think he was pretty much there from the beginning with Jackass, but
okay. I knew him more as a skateboarder than the Jackass person. So
I think he was involved in all the filming and stunts and everything a lot less than the others.
Yeah, like he was probably part of the magazine, and then he just kind of ended up in there somehow.
All right.
We'll come around to that. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure I remember him being there early on. For me, it was like we didn't have cable or anything until my dad set it up for us to have it for free, basically, which is a really simple hack. Quite a long time ago, I think I've talked about it. You would just super glue. Like, there was a piece that would connect that would just spin endlessly, so you couldn't get it to actually, make a connection. And you just super glue the inside of it, so it'll actually screw on. And then we had free cable. And so we didn't have that for quite a while, but our neighbors did, and they had the big screen and all this, and their parents weren't home a lot and stuff. And I remember watching it at their house and being like, whoa, what is this? Like, this is so different, And I actually at first was kind of disturbed by it because it was like a lot, like people throwing up
Yeah.
and falling on their face and stuff. And at first I was like, I couldn't really handle it. And then I wanted more, basically. So.
I was going to say different is a mild term to use.
Yeah.
It was quite the scene, we'll say.
Oh, yeah.
But Stephen something Glover, whatever the fuck you said.
Gilchrist.
Glover. My first note here, Eloy has the same one we were talking about before recording, but
nice.
Glover, I didn't know his last name was Glover.
Yeah, that's funny.
And I feel like the last name Glover is one of those last names that just perpetuates like stardom.
I was thinking
you
that
got
too.
like Donald Glover. You got there's two
Danny
Donald
Glover.
Glovers. Huh?
Oh, yeah, Danny Glover.
Danny Glover, yeah.
Yeah.
You got Stephen Glover. I know there's probably somebody else.
You know the hamburger helper guy? His last name is Glover.
Yeah.
Crispin Glover.
Yeah, Crispin Glover. True.
I've heard that name, yeah.
Creepy actor. Technically a good actor, but he's just the creepy guy in my mind. I don't know.
It's Marty McFly's dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That guy.
Oh.
I first got to know him in the Charlie's Angels movie forever ago with like Cameron Diaz and all them.
Well, there was a recent one, too, I was going to say. Was that
Yeah,
one?
I never saw that one.
I didn't either. I don't think anybody did. I think it bombed pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really did.
He was like the villain. He would like rip out people's hair and like sniff it, all creepy and just
Fuck.
like. So that's
Pretty dark.
That's how I got to know Crispin Glover. And he's in this weird like rat movie where.
Oh, Ninja Turtles.
No, I wish. God, why didn't they make a good Ninja Turtles reboot? But anyway,
I thought it was fine. You know?
No, it is funny.
Oh, it's
Now I'm wishing they had. I was just becoming sad about the whole Michael Bay reboot when you said that. So.
Yeah, wow. Whatever happened to those? Did they make a second one? They did. Huh? They did make a second one of those.
It did.
Anyways, so my next note. Do you guys have any precursive notes? I don't even know if that's a word. Precursive.
Depends on where you want to start. I mean, I have a good amount of stuff here, so.
I mean, general thoughts, overviews. I mean, my next note is it's a cute little intro music for the whole biography series that Bio does or whatever. It's just
Yeah.
It's very pleasant compared to all the crazy shit you see in the actual
That is true.
documentary.
But they had the classic, like, cut to break moments where it was like, and after that, he would never be the same. Yeah. And then it was like,
Yeah.
are you vulnerable to, contract coronavirus? Just the same ad every time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did like that.
So yeah, any more early notes for you guys?
I wrote that he has one sister. His dad traveled a bunch for work, and it kind of seems like they were in a way like well off. Like they traveled a lot. They moved from like Argentina to Connecticut to Florida to London. Like they went all over, and his dad was like never really home. And
I remember hearing an interview with Steve-O at one point, and I think he maybe said his dad was like a Pepsi like not a CEO, but
oh, I think I have heard that too.
yeah,
Totally
he was
forgot
like
about that.
higher up at Pepsi or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have heard that actually. He did an interview on some podcast. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even with his middle name, that's pretty telling. Like Gilchrist or whatever. That's always funny. Like that's kind of revealing of, you know what I mean? Like that's not
Your
a name.
social standing.
Yeah. So he was definitely a black sheep. Like his sister, like interviewing throughout this whole thing. They don't say what she does, but she's kind of just like a vanilla, like professional.
I was gonna say his sister. Where is it here? I put his sister definitely seems like a very suburban mom. I put ... suburban mom because I didn't know how to word it, but yeah,
That's true.
she's I love how she's just excited to be like being interviewed. She's like
Yeah.
smiling and everything. She's talking about their spoilers for later on in the episode. She's talking about their mother's death, and she's like,
Yeah.
that was really it, for Steve-O. It was crazy. It was a hard time for us, and she's all smiling big and shit. And I'm
know,
just like,
yeah.
she's so excited. She's so excited. But
It's a good point.
it was cute. But yeah, his dad apparently was president of the South American division of Pepsi Cola.
Wow.
So
Yeah. Damn.
he was big ups.
Serious.
Big ups there.
Well, and maybe there's something to be said about that in the sense that Steven had the opportunity to go to different schools and all this shit that maybe his life would be totally different if they weren't like, yeah, we'll pay for clown college. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like there's something about that possibly. Like, he probably would have made it either way, but it is interesting. Like,
I don't know. Part of me, I always struggle whenever I hear about these people that, even if they did have wild lives or whatever, like Steve-O, where their parents, like they interview his dad at some point, and
yeah.
his dad is just very like buttoned down. You can kind of tell he has money. He has that air about him.
Yeah.
You know? And I kind of wonder, because as Steve-O says at some point in this, he says he was basically like a bum. He was a low life, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, I think you're kind of afforded to be a low life in a lot of ways in that
True.
regard. Like
That's
you're
the way I
allowed
was
to,
looking at it.
yeah, because you always have like a safety net behind you,
Right.
kind of thing. So that whole, I always get kind of skeptical whenever I hear that kind of stuff from these famous people, where they're like, yeah, I had a really rough childhood. Not to take away from that, but it's also kind of like, I don't disagree with you, but also you being on Jackass, I mean, you might have been there like you're saying anyways, but at the same time, you had a lot of time on your hands because you didn't have to worry about,
Yeah, exactly.
struggling to survive, we'll just say.
Yeah.
So,
But there is a, like I wrote here, when he was in like elementary school or some kind of school, I don't remember. I just wrote they called him Tremendo, and his sister was like, "Oh, he's tremendous," and no, it translates to like, what was it? Just
Tornado.
like tornado, yeah.
Tornado.
Like, he's just a wild kid, like you can't contain him, and it actually was not a compliment,
Yeah.
But and then right after that, I wrote that he got into like Motley Crue, and he really wanted to like meet them. And so you guys probably have notes on that and remember that whole thing.
Well, my only Motley Crue thing is that we were actually talking about doing something about Nikki Sixx, which
Yeah, that was so
I
weird.
thought that was kind of funny too. But
Yeah.
Eloy, what are your thoughts on Motley Crue and Steve-O? I know those are two touchstones of yours.
I admire his determination in
Yeah.
just wanting to meet them. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to.
It was just like a pleasant surprise in the documentary for it to be Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He certainly does have the determination to be successful.
Yeah.
So, and that's the point that Josh was trying to make.
Yeah.
About whether he would have been famous or not, regardless. But yeah, I think maybe Steve-O is an outlier to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying with a lot of successful people. They'll say like,
No, I do.
they had a good, like Donald Trump. I mean,
Yeah.
he brags about how he's self-made and stuff, and then the whole joke is the small loan of $1 million. Like that kind of stuff is what I'm talking about.
Which is still a gross understatement of how it actually worked for him, because he was his dad's landlord when he was like 8, and it was a money laundering funneling scheme. But regardless, but with I want to call him Steven until he gets into his later years, because I think that's kind of funny.
Until he drops the N for an O.
Yeah, he's not Steve-O quite yet, but he's this kid. He's like 8 or whatever, and he wants to meet Motley Crue, and he like, they didn't say it in this, but I think I heard it somewhere. He like looks at the back of the, I guess, tape or whatever at the time, or somehow he found out their manager's name, and then he saw that they were coming to town for a show. They kind of skipped over that part, and so he knew they were in town, and so he called around like all the hotels in the area and was asking for the manager's name, and like finally got through, and then got in contact with him, and he like sat there for hours at this desk, like going through a phone book and like calling everyone, and then eventually they're like, yeah, man, we got tickets for you, backstage passes, and he got to meet them just through that determination, so.
And he says
There's something to be said about that, too.
Yeah, and he says how that was a lesson for him to realize that he could get anything he wants if he just works at it long enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That was pretty cool. I like
It,
that.
I also think it's a stroke of genius to ask for the manager or the whatever rather than the actual.
Yeah.
Because if you call up the hotels and you're like, "Can I speak to Motley Crue, please?"
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna be like, "No, sorry."
Yeah,
But if you ask for the guy's name, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, well, he's staying in this hotel or this room. We'll patch you to him or whatever." But
exactly. That's super smart, especially for a kid. Like,
yeah, exactly.
so that does kind of make me think of it a little differently with him. You know, just how he knew if he set his mind to something, then he could achieve it, basically. So I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of both with him, I think.
Yeah.
But,
We did mention how they moved around a lot or whatever.
yeah.
And one of my notes here is actually like I don't know how much of him acting out, being that tornado or whatever, is based on just his personality. Probably a lot of it, but it's one of those nature versus nurture things where you always hear about these kids that move from place to place and they have different ways of trying to cope and trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if his was just to be the crazy. I mean, it was, but I have to wonder how much of that was built in versus how much of it was the fact that he had to move around. You know what I'm saying?
No, I do. And his dad was never home, and his mom was like depressed and an alcoholic and distant. And that's the case a lot of the time with entertainers, is they felt like starved for attention, and they did everything they could to try to get that attention that they craved. You know. And so it's a bit of both. But his sister wasn't that way, and she was in the same circumstance. So it's
must have been just in him. But what were you going to say, Eloy?
I was going to say, I think it fits a bit of both, especially because he did have that desire for attention, but with moving around so much, I feel like doing crazy shit every chance you got is like the quickest way to be noticed instead of just trying to work your way up the social ladder.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's the crazy guy. You can always count on it being fun when he's around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you become known, like, oh, he's here, like, what's going to happen? And but you can see how that's a very, way later on, like when they do Jackass 3 and he's sober and stuff, which is kind of, I don't know if it matters if it's like a spoiler, but there's that line where he's like, why do I have to be Steve-O? And that's like funny because it's like his honesty made him more funny is what they were saying. But there is something about that, of like, that's like a role you take on and it's like a lot of pressure to keep maintaining that. And but he needed it enough to keep being that way for whatever reason. Like,
I mean, he has stuck with it in large part. So it just really must be something he loves. So I don't know, but he did say he always wanted to be famous, which I think is actually kind of I don't know if it's disingenuous of other people, but I often hear other people talk about how in interviews or whatever, I hear these famous people say like, you just got to work. Like this just kind of happened to me.
Yeah, it was just passion and it led me there. Like,
Whereas it's him, he makes no bones about it that he was doing the crazy shit because he wanted to be famous. He wanted to be known. And
exactly.
I think that's kind of interesting too. But,
no, I totally agree. I mean, I will just keep going, I guess, but I wrote that I don't know if it was for a birthday or like Christmas or what, but he got his first skateboard, the Ramp Rat.
The Ramp Rat, yeah.
And he gets really into skating, and he kind of forms that identity, and it's interesting because it is like an inherently kind of like dangerous thing, like maybe not. He made it dangerous for sure. I guess it doesn't have to be, but it was a way for him to kind of like channel that into something. Yeah,
well, my note about the skateboarding is like skateboarding is the epitome of dumb sports.
Yeah,
because no matter, even if you're wearing a helmet and you're wearing knee pads and elbow pads, you're still like there's no safety mechanism behind it.
Right. Like you will fall no matter what you do.
Even if you're the best skateboarder, you're gonna get hurt. Whereas if you're like I don't know, if you're the best basketball player, you're probably gonna get hurt, but you might have a twisted ankle, it's not like a guarantee that anytime you go play basketball, you're going to get fucked up. But every time you go skateboarding, you know you're going to have some bruised shins, some scraped skin. Like, you're going to get fucked up, so.
So it's kind of a perfect thing for him, you know? Cause,
I think skateboarding and Jackass, like, the synergy between those two identities is so... There's so much synergy between the two that it's only natural that they found each other in the end. So
exactly. But he gets the skateboard, and they're living in London at the time, I guess. And he said that he stole his dad's video camera that he won in a golf tournament. So I think that kind of says a lot too.
Oh yeah,
like that. Just that statement is like such a. Like the epitome of his whole thing. Like, he stole the camera from his wealthy dad that won a golf tournament to go be a destructive fucker out in the streets, you know? Like, that's such a, like, culmination of his whole thing. But,
starts young, man.
Yeah, super young.
He had a Steve-O identity at that age, yeah.
Yeah, he's probably, like, 12 or 13 or something at that time. And then I just wrote... starts the weed, grows out hair.
Starts the weed. I like the line where it's like, I don't remember who it was from, but they're like, one time I saw him, he just looked like this punk kid. Next time I saw him, he looked like Charles Manson.
Yeah, exactly. Which is such a, like, marijuana propaganda statement.
I was going to say, I have here, weed, a gateway drug?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I was like, careful with that. But.
It's so blatantly obvious, like, what they're doing. I think this documentary came out in, like, 2011, I think, I want to say.
Yeah.
So weed still wasn't quite as open as it is now, but...
True.
It was just especially with how quickly they went from he started smoking weed to, I think, less than a minute and a half later. Maybe right around just a minute. He's like, I started doing meth. I started doing this.
LSD and crack cocaine and all this. And you're just like, whoa.
It's so funny. I'm glad we all picked up on like how razor thin that veil was.
That's so true.
The propaganda, but oh my god, it was funny.
Yeah, there's all these, like, shots of, like, Ozzy Osbourne looking crazy and, like, the rock and roll lifestyle, you know? Yeah. And then it's just a picture of him, like, looking like a corpse with a wig on. Like, he just has, like, the long hair with a blank look on his face, and it's like, he was just never the same after that.
Yeah. Like, I think if you ask him now, too, it'd be like, weed is, like, is a good, like, mechanism for me to just get all that out and really focus and come back down to earth. And
yeah.
I think he said something about that before, but...
I'm sure he did. Yeah, I don't know. I think it does work that way for some people, for sure, but I'm glad you guys noticed that, too, because I was like, that's kind of not fair. But
it was so quick from, like, weed to, like, the cocaine and... LSD, shit like that. It was funny. But this is the point in his life where he's like going into college, which makes it even more funny because that's the time that everybody starts trying weed and shit.
Yeah.
Not everybody goes into coke and LSD and shit. But my next note here is he looks every bit like the kind of kid that I wanted to be.
I know, me
up.
too. Yeah.
Or I don't know how to describe it. Like he has a certain hairstyle. His smile is a certain way where it's kind of like, and then just how wacky he is. It's kind of like you see him in your class or whatever, and you're like, wow, that kid's cool.
Yeah.
And then you realize he's doing, God knows what, and you kind of like, oh well.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really tried to toe that line in high school. Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of, where he started is just where I stayed and kind of didn't even hit, like, the peak of coolness that he started out at,
Yeah.
But
You were the long-haired weed kid.
Yeah, dyed my hair black and wore metal shirts and all that stuff. Like, But I would longboard full of anxiety. Like I wasn't like doing kick flips and just fucking like fuck it, dude. Like I wasn't that at all. I wanted to be, but yeah.
The whole time you're in your head about falling or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Eloy, what do you have any thoughts on this?
Not so much at this stage. Mostly, I just never knew he was even into skating. Maybe it's 'cause I never delved into his personal life outside of just watching the Jackass movies, which he never skated in those.
It's true.
So seeing it was such like a big thing for him was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
See, and I never watched Jackass, and I always associated the two for some reason. So
Yeah, he really wasn't like the skate guy at all in that show.
Huh.
It was Bam Margera and a little bit like Ryan Dunn and stuff, but yeah, he was just jumping off of stuff and putting stuff in his ass and all that. Like, he wasn't really like the skater guy at all. So I kind of forgot about that aspect too. Like, for him at least. Like,
so maybe my ignorance worked in my favor this time.
yeah, I mean, well, and we're almost there, I guess. So we'll wait for.
Yeah, I was gonna say this correlates later on.
Yeah.
My next note here is that I thought it was interesting that they had his first like girlfriend there.
Yeah,
Like,
that was
I
a
don't-
big through line. Like,
I don't know why it was that one girlfriend specifically. Like, it was weird, but they basically break up. It's his first college girlfriend. It's his first serious relationship. They're like, oh, this was crazy. Things are going well.
yeah,
But then they break up because my note here says, damn women wanting to better themselves and shit. You know?
I know. Huh? Damn it.
She basically says how she was down to party, but she wanted, more with her life, and he's just wanting to get drunk and shit all the time.
Yeah, I really liked
Yeah.
the line. She was like, I was work hard, play hard, and he was play hard, play harder. And that's where we started to like grow apart. And
Yeah, that was the exact line that really got me.
yeah.
I mean, I have a question. What's the wildest thing you guys have done for love? Because the next thing that he does when they break up is he starts like jumping off shit, and he says he wants her to notice that he's putting his life in danger, so that she like feels sorry for him or whatever.
Yeah, she'd be like worried about him and want to contact him. And yeah.
So what's the wildest thing you guys have done? You guys ever jumped off a building?
No.
You're breaking up with me? Watch me smash my head against this wall.
I can't say that I have.
I'm more the stalker type.
I was gonna say that's probably like the wildest thing I've done has been like, are you at your friend's house?
Yeah, like, oh, I'm going to drive past their house in the middle of the night. And then, who's that car? What are they doing?
So the wildest thing Logan's ever done is call me, and he's like, hey,
You want to?
this girl's acting shady. You want to come roll with me?
Well, she was acting shady, all right, and it turned out to be right in the end. Okay,
That's fair. I was just an accomplice to stalking.
I did some internet sleuthing. I tried to find the dude's house and drive by it, and she wasn't there, but she was somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's like, what are you even going to do if you see it? You just sit there and stew, like, I knew it. Like, there's no plan of, like, breaking in or whatever, but you just want to catch them and be right. Like,
And then when you talk about it and you're like, I saw, if you do approach them, I knew where you were. They're like, how'd you know where I went? And it's like, well, shit, I was kind of looking at you. I was kind of following your car.
yeah.
And then you just immediately feel like a dumbass. So
Yeah.
there's no winning in that situation. But,
It's true.
yeah.
I remember making, I can't remember what it was called, like, kind of like the equivalent of, like, Jungle Juice or whatever, like Everclear and soda and, like, a whole, like, cocktail mix.
I just always call that jungle juice.
Yeah, that's what I don't know what it was, but...
Throw everything in a can, see what comes out.
Yeah. And that was, like, right after a breakup, and I remember just drinking a ton of that and, like, getting the spins and throwing up in a Del Taco bathroom and just, having a real rough time of it. But it wasn't, like... I don't know. Usually the girls I broke up with or that broke up with me, they were the ones that were like, I don't know. I don't want to poke fun, I guess. But they were a little more dramatic than I was in that sense. Like,
Oh, they were stalking you?
no, like,
They were jumping off buildings.
Yeah, like their mom calling me like, "Hey, they're in the hospital and like they tried to take a bunch of pills and like,
Jesus.
all that type of shit." So.
Oh, well, I meant that as a joke, and then it got real. It got real fast.
They're fine. Everyone's fine. They're good. Most of them are on like their second marriage, and everything's good. You know,
Everything's fine. Well, that's never happened, for me. Every time a woman's broken up with me, they get married afterwards, and then they're happy ever after. So
that's mostly what it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't necessarily. But yeah,
that'd be a terrible call to get, though.
Oh, yeah, it was scary. It was right after high school, and I was, like, having, like, a bonfire with my friends, like, drinking and shit, and I'm just like, oh, that sucks. Like, I didn't know what to say at all.
In the
I was,
background,
I don't blame you.
it's like
background
17.
they hear, like, Josh, pull down your pants.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, like, this somber moment, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. I'm, like, trying to talk, and, yeah, oh, God.
That was funny.
But, yeah, no, she was a big thing, apparently.
Yeah, he was talking about this girlfriend of his,
Tracy Smith.
Yeah, he has a good memory, all in all, for a lot of things, which is wild considering how fucking drugged up he was. He has a great memory, but he was talking about this girl like she had an impact. So I guess maybe it's good that she was in there. But
she still loves him, man. You can tell all throughout that bio or whatever. Like, she looks so fondly, and just like you can tell, she's like, "Just take me back, Steve, please." Like,
well, I'm sure the fame and the good looks that he's gotten, and the fake teeth and the plastic surgery, I'm sure it's done well for him. But
yeah.
See, like I wouldn't know that he has all that stuff if I didn't watch like this, and I see like his face got melted and shit.
Yeah,
he lost all these teeth when he fell off a balcony, and it's like, oh, so all of that is fake. Maybe I saw the teeth were fake, but he must have had skin grafts on his face or some shit.
I know, huh?
You don't notice the burn marks anymore. So
yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, so like they break up, and he's jumping off 15-story apartment buildings into shallow pools. And he drops out of college, and he's not really like spiraling, but he's that attention, that craving for attention is just like really ramping up, and so he decides he wants to be a stuntman. And I wrote here 1995. While trying to impress a girl, he falls off a railing and lands on his face.
That's pretty much all the points. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Well, and yeah, I mean, I guess that's maybe there's some kind of Freudian familial thing there of like wanting that like motherly love or whatever, and that's a whole other aspect of it. But yeah, he's all drunk and he's like fucking around on this railway in like a hotel or something, and then just falls like a few stories, and there's like blood pouring out of his head, and like people think he died, and
they send him to the hospital.
Yeah,
he's still in his gown. Apparently, he like gets back up and goes back to the party.
Yeah, he leaves the hospital.
Fucking breaks out of the hospital.
And goes back to and he's like chugging beers, and they're like, "Yeah, Steve-O!" And his ass is hanging out of the hospital.
He's like, I went back and I chugged a beer in the exact spot where I fell.
Yeah.
He's just happy about it. He's stoked.
It's so crazy.
God,
it's pretty gangster though. Pretty gangster.
It is. I mean, it's funny because you can look at it through the Dr. Drew lens of being destructive and an addict and stuff, or you can look at it through the. I wrote somewhere on here. I didn't write his name, but there was that college friend, like just that guy that was commenting once in a while. That you can tell is just like a burnout. That's like, yeah, I knew Steve-O back in the day, man. Like he was cool, bro.
I don't know if it was him or not, but I have a quote here that's like, after Steve-O almost dies, one of these friends, I guess in hindsight it's okay to say this, but he's like, dude, his face was like caved in and like all scratched up, and he looked like a Smurf, man.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh shit. So I guess you say that kind of stuff in hindsight when you know he's okay and stuff, but
exactly,
it's pretty funny.
Well, and I have later on, like, when Jackass is kind of blown up, we'll get there later, but they go back to that college friend guy, and he's like, who knew, like, jumping into a pile of elephant poo could start a career? And then he just kind of, like, looks off and and he's just like, fuck, like, where did my life go? All he had to do was that dumb shit, and now he's a celebrity, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just funny to me. Like, he could have easily just been one of those burnout guys.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's where his trajectory was going, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's exactly where that picks up right here after he cracks his head open. I think that same college burnout roommate goes on and says, yeah, he wasn't paying rent. He was doing all these stunts all the time.
Yeah.
He was just a mooch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is pretty much right after that. Yeah. He's mooching, he's destructive, I mean, and they have all this footage, and he's like basically like punching holes in the wall and kicking the fan, like doing like a jump kick and just being ridiculous. Like, it's funny for a while, and then you're like, dude, like, this is my place I am paying for, and you're literally destroying it and just laughing about it and like it's getting old. So yeah, exactly. And he moves in with his sister, and
Back in New Mexico,
yeah.
Albuquerque. I pick out things like that because you don't ever think that, Albuquerque is where these famous people have a touchstone to.
Yeah.
Like, it's always funny to me whenever I hear, like, I grew up in Colorado for 4 years, or Utah. I'm like, oh, wow. I just always assume that they're on
True.
the coasts their whole life. But
Yeah, like they're
anyways.
like the Bay Area guy, like
Yeah.
surfing, and it just all happened naturally. That's true. Like,
yeah,
they had kind of a, yeah, that's a good point.
I should pick that out as a side note. But so
Yeah.
he's living with his sister in Albuquerque. Things are going good, I guess. Well, bad because he's had to move in with his sister. But apparently-
he had that cushion. He had that safety net. Like,
yeah, exactly.
so that's another. He could have just been homeless after that and just OD'd and just been gone. Like,
Yeah,
so
that could have easily happened. Yeah.
yeah,
But apparently there's like a skateboarding magazine that's really big in Albuquerque at the time called Big Brother.
yep,
I never actually saw an issue of it, but
didn't either.
I did like how like the sub, how it'll be like, I'm trying to think, I don't know, People magazine, and then they'll do like a little underneath it, it'll be like a description of what the magazine is or whatever, just like a
Yeah.
couple words. I loved how Big Brother was like the silly skateboarding magazine.
Yeah.
And then it has fucking video or pictures and articles about this crazy ass shit that's going on. It's like silly. Yeah, I guess that's it. And I'm
I think Knoxville chimes in right here, and he's just basically saying, like, yeah, it wasn't even so much about the skateboarding. It was just about, like, being as raunchy and ludicrous as it could be. And it cuts to, like, this, just the, like, underboob of this woman in a photo shoot that just says Big Brother tattooed on her tits.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. It's lifestyle mag, you know. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was good. Yeah, I my note here is like Big Brother like Motley Crue. Like he makes sure to tell Big Brother that I'm going to be in the magazine whether you guys like it or not, and it's that same determination that comes through. And I don't know, maybe there's something to be said with he's living with his sister. He's like, wow, this is really not where I want to be. So
Yeah.
and then he notices something that he wants to do, and then he immediately goes for that. But
True.
I don't know. I am a firm believer in that, hard times make for the most clever ways of people using their talents to get noticed or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're struggling, you're gonna find a way to not struggle. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, so he gets noticed by Big Brother by doing a stunt, this fireball stunt of speaking of where his face gets melted off.
Yeah.
I didn't catch the exact details of what he put on his hair. What was?
I don't remember actually.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was
See,
maybe like rubbing alcohol or something. And,
Yeah, I think that's basically what it was.
but he lights his head on fire, and he's expecting somebody to like blow rubbing alcohol like off of the top of his head and like.
Like as he's skating or something. It was supposed
I
to be
just
like
think
a
it's
whole
like-
thing.
Yeah, I don't know,
But then the video, he's just like standing there. I don't really know what they were doing exactly.
yeah, I don't know. But some guy, I love this part in the documentary because all the people are like, Yeah, it could have happened if the other person didn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like, they're all blaming the other guy, and I'm
That's
like,
so
well,
true.
you know.
Yeah, they're talking about like the angle that he blew on his head and stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, well, maybe, you know, maybe Steve was a little bit at fault here for, you know, having the idea to begin with. But everybody was like, no, it's this other guy fucked it up. He came in at the wrong angle. He fucked everything up, man.
Yeah, you're supposed to blow like over the top of his head and then just have it kind of like over the top, you know?
Yeah.
But he like blows
Shot him straight in the face.
Yeah, he shoots it right in the face with like he like spits out a bunch of alcohol or something, and yeah, his like face and arm and shit all catch a fire, and he's like running off, and it's real fucked up.
Yeah, my anxiety like spiked right there. Like,
Yeah.
of course I know he's fine, but as I'm watching the video of him like freaking out with his head on fire, I'm like, oh shit! Like, I immediately felt myself tense. Like, oh god! Like,
I know. Well, and everyone there is just like, yeah, they're all drinking.
Yeah,
it's just like
I was
being
waiting for
wacky.
someone to be concerned or try and help him.
Nope.
Nope.
Jesus.
Yeah,
But
that's,
what blew my mind though is that they even had a video clip of him, seemingly like right after, just kind of like raising his fist in victory or whatever.
yeah, exactly.
That's a major part of it, is that you don't
True.
sit there and you wallow in your pain. You're like, oh, this was fucking. How dare you? What the fuck? Like, you came in at the wrong angle, motherfucker. He gets
Yeah.
right out and he's like, hell yeah, dude.
It's like that was crazier than I thought, man.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's the yeah.
Go with it kind of vibe.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I like wanted to ride skateboards, but it really scared me. And I remember my dad would always be like we had a trampoline in my backyard, and I didn't like grow up with him, so like he would come out every week and we'd hang out, and he'd like be like, "Oh, I can do a backflip," and he'd like do a backflip on the trampoline. I was just like, "Wow!" Like my like parents don't do that, so he was like the cool dad type thing.
Yeah.
And I remember he was like, well, let me get on it. And he like gets on the skateboard and goes down the driveway. And it's kind of a longish driveway. But there was like a kind of like a lip at the bottom of it. Like instead of just being smooth concrete, it like rose up at the very bottom.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And he like hits the lip and falls, and he's like, fuck, you know, like he swears. And I remember like, that was like a big lesson for me, because he was like, yeah, if you just like yell a swear word when you get hurt and don't like wallow in it, it makes the pain go away, basically. Like, and I remember that was like a big thing. Like that was before I had ever seen Jackass or anything, but it's totally that mindset of, yeah, just like going with it and just like releasing it instantly, and then like kind of laughing instead of like falling over and like, ooh, because I was totally that kid, you know, and like,
Yeah.
so it just, yeah, there's something to that is kind of powerful, I guess, like to just roll with it. And I think that's why it was such a big hit, because people aren't naturally like that necessarily.
No.
And so when you're like escaping fear and not letting it like control you, that's like a very attractive thing, you know?
Yeah. It's the whole live vicariously through the
Yeah.
crazy shit that they do.
Yeah.
But maybe not a lot. I mean, later on we talk about like copycats and stuff, which
Yeah.
that's something we can go into too.
True.
So
So kind of leading up to this though, they had all this footage of him like jumping off a bridge, doing a backflip, like blowing fire out of his mouth, and he was like sending all this shit to Jeff Tremaine, which was like the co-founder of Big Brother with Johnny Knoxville. And they're kind of like, yeah, man, cool. Like, and then when they do this stunt where he like catches his face on fire, they publish it, because they're like, yeah, there's no way I was just going to ignore him. Like,
Yeah.
and that was kind of like a big deal, you know, he's like in the magazine now. And
then after that, I think he's
Yeah.
kind of like in the world of Big Brother.
yeah, exactly.
And I don't know exactly when they do the goldfish thing. Is that right after this, or?
I
I think
think
it has to be pretty soon after this, because there's a line, a real quick one, where it's basically like Big Brother was kind of like a founding factor in Jackass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same guys. Like, they had the magazine, and then they wanted to make like a TV show with kind of the same like mindset. And they had been in contact, like Steve-O kept sending him like emails or calling. I don't know what the means were at the time, but he kept sending him ideas like, what if I did this and da da da, and they were just like, yeah, we'll like keep that in mind, you know.
Yeah.
And then yeah, they like contacted him. Well, and so he gets in the magazine, and he actually joined the Ringling Brothers Circus. It was an 8-week program, 14-hour days. It was like this kind of grueling process, and okay, so this is kind of the timeline. He's doing all that, and then his mom ends up in the hospital. She has a brain hemorrhage. She becomes permanently disabled. She's mentally and physically disabled, and so he kind of sets aside like the crazy life for a little bit, and he's kind of like caring for her.
Yeah.
And he just wants to make her laugh, and that's kind of like a thing where it's that same like theme comes back around in another way, where it's not being starved for attention, it's like wanting her to feel good in a time where it's really hard.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of like a little lost, and
That's
and then
when he goes into the clowning school.
Yeah.
Is around that time. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's kind of like, maybe I'll just be like a clown or whatever, and I think he was like doing performances or whatever, and then
Yeah, I think they did say it for like a flea market or something.
yeah,
He was doing
Yeah.
like clown shows for a flea market.
I don't know if they were aware of that or not or what, but yeah, and then it just Big Brother contacts him about a TV show called Jackass. This is where Johnny Knoxville kind of comes into the picture, and he's talking to him a little bit. And in August 2000, they get the green light from MTV, and they begin 5 days of filming. And during this whole time, because he was in the circus, Steve-O had been like accruing all this elephant poo. He was just like holding on to it because he knew he wanted to do some kind of stunt with it. And so yeah, this was a funny line. Like Knoxville said, like, I'm an attention whore, but he's an attention whore house.
Yeah.
And I loved that. That was funny. But
Yeah.
so he's doing all this wacky stuff. Like he jumps off like a diving board into the pile of poo, and he's doing dumb shit, but it's kind of just like wacky. And but yeah, like the goldfish thing is what really kind of
Solidifies him as part of the in crowd with the Johnny Knoxville and stuff.
like that's when they like, yeah, exactly. They're like, okay, what do you got? Like they bring him from the circus over to them to start filming, and they're like, so what are your ideas? You know?
Yeah. I mean, what I love about that whole story is that they ask him, like, what do you got?
Yeah.
And he's like, just, I can swallow a goldfish and puke it back out.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've never done that before. I wasn't even sure I could do it, but he ends up doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And you see in the video when he actually does it, like he's super jazzed at the end. He's like, "Fuck yeah!" Because he never had done it, and he's like, he's excited for himself that he was actually able to pull something off that he just kind of pulled out of his ass. So
Well, and
Yeah, I just love.
sorry, go ahead. Well, no, I was just gonna. He downs the goldfish, and then it's just a minute of him gagging himself and dry heaving, and he can't get it up. And they're like, "Man, this is pretty weird. Like, I don't know if this guy's cool or like what this is." And then he pulls it off, and the fish like swims around in the bowl, and he's like, "Fuck yeah!" And then it was like, okay, like he's dedicated, like, you know, he pulled it off basically, and
exactly.
but yeah, it wasn't simple. He's just bent over the goldfish bowl, just like really trying to get it back out, and it's not going well.
Yeah.
And then it does, and it's like, woo, you know, but
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Eloy?
I was just gonna say I love like picturing myself in that very moment.
Yeah.
Just watching him do that, saying he's like pretending it's a trick. He's done for years.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like watching him gag himself, I'd be like, I don't know if this guy knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
And then him just giving himself away straight up at the end, and he's like, "Oh my god, fuck yeah!"
I actually did it. Yeah. Exactly.
But there's got to be something to it where you're like, oh well, he came through, even though he, you know, if there's something to be said that maybe if he wasn't as excited about it at the end, if they still wouldn't have been like, well, cool trick, but you know,
True.
whatever. But because they knew after he was so excited at the end that he came up with some bullshit and actually pulled it off.
Yeah.
Maybe that was like part of the effect of
Totally.
being like, oh shit, like he's really something. Like he stands out in the crowd kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think
totally
oddly
agree with
enough,
that.
the fact that he just kind of did that on the spot was probably even an appealing factor to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that was the whole like energy of the show, you know, is it's like we're just gonna go for it. We don't really know what's gonna happen, like, and so yeah, he totally proved that he was down to do that.
Yeah. So Jackass gets signed for like 3 seasons on MTV, right?
Yeah,
He's doing well. But at some point, this is where the copycats come in, where MTV starts getting a lot of flack for copycat kids trying to do their own Jackass stunts. And I having never even seen Jackass, I know I was part of the kids that were doing that.
oh, me too.
Or at least I knew kids that were like, oh yeah, let's do our own Jackass stunts. And because I was skateboarding a lot too, and so like a lot of the Jackass stuff that the people would want to do, or with skateboards or whatever, like they'd be like,
Yep.
fucking lay down and I'll ollie over you, and that was like their Jackass thing. But
Definitely.
so it wasn't
Yeah.
like crazy shit, but I definitely was part of that, and
Yeah.
I had run-ins with that stuff too. So I mean, even with, I think it kind of permeated in my own life, not through like Eloy and us, our little group of friends, ever saying like, let's do a Jackass thing, but we definitely tried to do different stunts and put it on
Yeah.
YouTube and try to be. So I don't know if we were specifically doing it to be like Jackass, but that culture kind of came through into our little group of friends, whether or not we knew that it was like a Jackass ripoff or not.
Yeah, that
You
makes
see
sense.
what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I get that.
you remember like the Hump Olympics, and we did like the cinnamon challenge, and like you guys drank like the milk jug challenge, like
Nice.
this stuff
Or it was just idiocy, just for content's sake, really.
Yeah.
yeah, trying to make each other laugh or whatever. And that is basically what Jackass was. But
Yeah.
that's like a connection I'm not actually realizing until just now, where that actually probably had a lot to do with like the Jackass. And
Well, I like it's like I never was a big like skater because it kind of freaked me out and all that. But I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater like a lot, like all those games, and you could unlock like the bail videos, and like so it'd be like
Yeah.
a 5-minute clip or whatever of people just like hitting their nuts on a pole, like trying to do a grind, and they fall and like.
Yeah.
And that was
That's
always
why you were
the
so
best.
scared.
Oh yeah,
You started
exactly.
with the veil videos.
Yeah, but those were the best to watch, you know, because it just had this like chaos to it, and that was like the energy that Jackass had of just like it's unpredictable, it's dangerous, like, and so yeah, I think even if you didn't know about Jackass, it was that same thing going on of just like trying to control chaos, like how close can we get to like without getting completely fucked up, but like right there, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and so even if you didn't know the show, it was like the same
Yeah.
same thing.
had a cultural impact.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. That is something that I've not thought about, and I'm like really like, wow. It's like it's unlocked like a part of my mind where I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, look at that connection being made. But,
that's awesome.
interesting. So after the copycat things, the deal with the TV show is pretty much over with MTV, but
Yeah,
the Jackass guys come back and they're like, let's make a movie
yeah,
kind of thing. And so then they come out with Jackass 1 or whatever.
yeah. And I wrote that Jeff Tremaine, like one of the co-creators, said no half-ass crap, like no dumb shit. Like this has to be like a big thing, you know.
Yeah, we're not on TV anymore. This is
Yeah,
gonna be
we're
the
not on
real
TV.
deal.
Yeah. And so Steve was like, what if I got a tattoo of myself on my back, like bigger than my own face? And they're like, all right, if you'll do it, then fuck yeah, let's film it. Like,
Yeah. And he still has it, I think.
oh yeah.
Just big, like later on when you'll see videos of him or whatever, you just, like he's on the ground or he's laying on his back or whatever, or on his stomach, and you just see this big ass fucking Steve-O tattoo on his back.
Yeah. He's doing thumbs up and smiling, and it says, yeah, dude, at the bottom. Like,
Yeah. That's great.
yeah, I love it.
I didn't really
Yeah.
see Jackass 1, like I said, so this is kind of where your guys is. I have a big like hole here. I'm realizing my next thing is his rap album. So
Oh wow, yeah. There's
there's a big hole. I stopped taking notes. Apparently, I was engrossed in the bio at that point. So
Well, like I knew of the show somewhat, like seeing it at the neighbor's house once in a while, and then like when we had cable finally, I remember I'd watch a lot of Comedy Central and like Chappelle's Show and all this shit like late at night. Like my parents didn't know that's what I was doing, and that and this show called Cat House on HBO about a brothel in Nevada. Those were informative times for me. But like very much, and South Park and all this stuff just like flooded in and like probably like totally changed who I was. But they at like 1 a.m. or something, they would air Jackass, and it was like uncensored and everything. I don't know how that was a thing, but then I really got into it because that was super like innovative, you know, like it's uncensored, there's swearing, there's nudity, they're like jumping in to like a pit of dead octopus and then jumping out and throwing up, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is a lot. And so then I just kind of became aware of it, and then they eventually played the movie on there, and so I watched it like kind of in pieces because they would play it like every few nights. And so then I had like seen it, like not like with a group of friends or whatever, but like it had come up, you know, and I was like, oh, I think this is the movie. And like,
yeah.
So I had seen clips basically, and yeah, I was aware of it. But
Now that you mention that, I actually vaguely remember there being like uncensored and censored versions of it playing. And like, maybe I did see like a bit of the uncensored part, and then when the censored part came on, it was kind of like, oh, it's a censored part, and I would just like change something else.
I know, exactly.
Yeah. Kind of remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it was such a, like, my room was in the basement, and it was such a, like, dark den of, like, secrecy, you know? Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, and I wrote that it cost $5 million to make, and it grossed $80 million, so it was a huge hit. Like,
yeah.
It's huge. It's like, that's a big deal, man.
Yeah.
But
That's insane.
How does it cost $5 million to make? First of all, but I guess it just does.
Lawsuits.
Probably just lawsuits and equipment. But yeah, I mean, it was a big thing, and
They factored medical bills into the budget.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And probably just like blurring out people's faces in the background and just all this like bullshit. It just
I
adds
guarantee that's actually probably where most of that money went. They probably were out filming with like a GoPro or the equivalent of, and then you know, everything else was like blurring and medical expenses and shit like that. Like, there's got to be a built-in expense budget for that, you know.
Yeah,
with that kind of show.
Yeah, so it was a big hit, and then that was kind of, they wanted to make another show, like, but they didn't want it to be Jackass again, and so Wild Boys was born. Did you guys watch that at all? Wild Boys?
I think I might have seen an episode or two, and I didn't like it at the time.
Yeah.
But as they were playing clips of it now, I'm like, I think I actually would really like Wild Boys.
I kind of want to go back through and watch it. Like,
Yeah.
I know, I'm much more into the idea of watching Wild Boys than Jackass.
Yeah. It's more
Maybe
appealing.
it's also because I was always a big Chris Pontius fan when I did watch Jackass, so.
That makes sense. Yeah, because Chris Pontius is just kind of like chill. He just looks really happy all the time, and he's not like intense.
So charismatic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like in that show, they're like in Africa, like fucking with crocodiles, or like I remember watching it at my uncle's house when my dad lived with my uncle, and that was another very like informative time. It's kind of weird thinking about all this, but yeah, I remember watching it. They had one of the clips they played was like, "We're gonna become men" or whatever. I remember watching that exact thing because there's like this ritual where you put your hand in a glove full of like fire ants or whatever, and they just bite the shit out of your hand, and it's like this like ritual of pain. And
oh my god, I remember that now.
Yeah.
You mentioned it.
and it's like he like would wear raw meat on his body and just like hang out and run away from lions or crocodiles or whatever. And it was very, I don't know, something about it was like it's still very, very destructive and crazy, but it was more like approachable for some reason because they're in like the bush,
Faraway places.
yeah, like something about it was like more interesting for some reason. But,
Yeah, it's like our version of like Bear Grylls, you know.
yeah,
It's the better-
exactly.
it's that kind of like curiosity that we have.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. I don't know. They went to every continent besides Antarctica. He
that's what I
said.
was gonna say. Yeah,
They had 2 million viewers at their peak. But this was also the huge, like, rise of his drug use, and that's where it starts to really kind of ramp up. And
yeah,
partially because it's like you're doing crazy shit and you're hurting yourself constantly, and you can't just lay around sore all the time, so you got to do another line of coke or whatever, like, to just keep ramping it up and keep being crazy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where that
yeah.
begins.
To tie in with earlier, I wonder if like all the drugs, and especially around this time where it just got so severe, was how intricately that was entwined in how well he just brushed everything off.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You
Probably.
gotta imagine he was just so wired during some of the big stuff that it was child's play.
Exactly.
Maybe
Well-
killed some pain receptors or whatever.
Probably.
Dulled them for life. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of that don't look back thing, you know, like, yeah, it's just like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And if you're just hanging around at home, you can't just keep punching holes in the wall. So naturally, you're going to start ramping up your drug use and just kind of getting that like instant satisfaction in a different way than like physical, I guess. But then they just kind of tie into each other. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wrote here a bathtub full of nug because there was like a clip of him in a bathtub just full of weed. I love that.
Oh, so young.
That was pretty badass. Yeah, and then they had all these clips. Well, this might have been when he was into the rap stuff, but I kept trying to pay attention to the clips and like what was going on in the background because that stuff they can't really tell you. Like you just have to see it and go like, oh wow, that sums it up. Like he had like a wall just full of like dollar bills, just like plastered onto the wall, and he's like holding an AK-47 and shit.
Yeah.
Just like really going out there, you know.
Yeah. This is probably when it was. I think after Wild Boys, things started going downhill because of the crazy drug use and stuff. And
Yeah, and his mom was dying,
yeah,
and then she died in 2003. Like,
yeah. And then at that point, he tries to reinvent himself. I think as like a rapper after after his mother's death.
I think so, yeah.
And but that just goes crazy. I was watching a video of him explaining it like now, like
Yeah.
and apparently he did it. He made the song we played at the beginning of the episode. He made that as like a joke, and he was pitching something to like he was pitching a show to some network, and he was like, check out my cool rap song as like a joke. And then like the person he was pitching it to was like, I couldn't give a shit about your TV show, but that song you played was really, really funny.
Yeah.
And so he gets signed to basically make like a comedy rap album for Comedy Central Records.
Okay.
But then his lawyer at the time apparently was the lawyer for Biggie,
Oh, wow.
like Biggie's
What?
estate.
Huh.
And so his lawyer was like, nah, man, I'm going to put in a good word with you at Universal like Records, and you're going to make a record with Universal.
Wow.
And so then that's when he's like, I have a record deal with fucking Universal. Like, I'm really going to get into this rap thing. And so that's why he takes it
Yeah.
so seriously.
Okay.
And that's why everybody's making fun of him, is because it's really bad.
Yeah. But he's like, well, I got signed, so clearly I'm a big deal. It's
Yeah,
like,
he's like, I'm with Universal Records, man. Like, I'm huge.
wow.
But after they heard, he says he was so drugged up that like in a lot of the songs, if you listen to his album, like he's slurring his words and he can't like function properly during the course of the song. Like, he's like,
Yeah.
and when he submitted it to Universal, they're like, We're okay. We're gonna shelf it for now. So
Oh, damn.
I don't think it ever actually got like released or anything.
No, it did. There's a line in there that says it sold only 800 copies.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that down too. That's
Well,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I underlined gangsta right after that. 800 copies sold,
Yeah.
gangsta.
So, I mean, really, it may as well have
That's
just
right.
been completely shelved.
So maybe it was like a once release, then they shelved it. Like
Yeah.
how terrible it was, but it's hard to find, man. I think.
Damn.
I mean, you can go on YouTube. You can find anything on YouTube, but just trying to find like the album to stream it anywhere, except even Apple. It said you could listen on Apple Music, but it's not even on Apple Music. I don't think so. It's pretty hard to
Wow.
find, man. So
Yeah. I doubt, yeah, I mean, they're probably like, we're not going to pay you royalties for this shit. Like, you know, like, we're not going to take credit for that. Like,
it's probably fair. But, there's songs on there called "Poke the Puss." There's a song called "Crack Cocaine." There's a song called what did we play at the beginning? I can look up the track list real fast, but
yeah, there was one, what was it? It was like "The Day I Die" or like something weird like that.
I don't know if that was on. Like that was like a different. Like this is the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Like sometimes he would do music with like "Be Real" and it would be
Huh.
like on a mixtape and shit. But I don't know if it was actually part of his mixtape or not. It's
Okay.
really fucking weird. But
That makes more sense as him kind of being like a side character that pops up in other people's music. Like, I
Yeah.
could see that.
TuneIn.com has the track list as Steve-O.
Jeez.
I don't know why
Jesus.
it's playing Cyndi Lauper. That was just like did it, man. But, sorry, guys. Steve-O's Goofy, and then Hard as a Rock, which is what we played.
Yeah.
People Giggled, Crack Cocaine, parentheses, Feels So Good. Discussions Begin, Poppin' Off. Oh, Poppin' Off is about ejaculating early. It's a
nice.
cool song. Will Kid, Down with STDs.
Yeah.
I Wasn't Supposed to. Poke the Puss is a different song. I didn't mean to run those two together. And Steve-O's Stupid and Bonus DVD. But
Okay.
so Cyndi Lauper not included. I don't know why.
That was weird.
I just
Playing her.
looked it up on Apple Music, and yeah, it's not on there.
It's not even
The only
his
thing
own-
on there is one of his stand-up albums.
Yeah, I got
Okay.
scrubbed, man. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
weird.
It's not on his own website or anything either.
No. But YouTube has everything, like we said. So if you want to listen to more of that greatness, head on over there.
You gotta imagine one of those 800 people just ripped a CD and uploaded it.
Yeah, exactly.
They have like a little playlist that I listen to on YouTube, and like some of them have still like only 1,000 watches or views, not watches. They only have like 1,000 views. Then you'll go to the next song and it's like 100,000 views. It's like
Huh.
I don't know. Apparently, some of them have made some kind of reach into society, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's funny. Just like an algorithm thing or something. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
or maybe it was featured on something and then that was the song people looked up or who knows.
Yeah, who knows?
That
was a fun little part of his thing. He took it really seriously. He wasn't joking about it at all. So
No, they have these clips of him like in the streets like freestyling and it's really bad. Like
There's one where he's just like in the club and has a hoodie only halfway on.
yeah.
Like the hood is on his head, but it's only on his right arm. And it's just dangling on his left. And he's saying some bullshit, and it cuts straight to Chris Pontius. He's like, dude, he was fucking garbage.
Oh yeah, I remember he's like smoking a joint with like a gold watch on and yeah, he's like trying to be all hard and then yeah, it just goes right to Chris Pontius. Like, that's awesome.
I do love that. Like, this is such a good documentary to have because everything he's done since late teen years has been documented on film.
Yeah. So I've joked about that before of like, man, I got to start filming my life more cuz like what are they going to have when my documentary comes out in 20 years? Like you need that footage, like
Exactly.
Yeah.
you
I
know
feel
what I
like
mean?
what?
I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
Otherwise, they'll have like your first girlfriend talking about you and stuff.
Yeah, like that would be the whole documentary. Exactly. So we got to just start filming ourselves all the time because Maybe there's something to that momentum. I don't know, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I think what really made this documentary more enjoyable than most for me is that instead of when they did interview his friends, his colleagues, whatever,
yeah,
it wasn't so much them. It sounded much less like a dedication, a eulogy, as it was them just kind of roasting him. The
yeah,
entire
that's
time.
true.
That is true. They made no, they didn't hold back anything, like what they honestly thought about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that really just the camaraderie in there was just uplifting in a way,
Yeah.
even when
That's
they're
a good
delving
point.
into the more serious issues.
For sure.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, they kind of look back at it fondly, like, man, he was just crazy, bro. Like, yeah,
So after the failed rap career, he just starts spiraling even more.
yeah,
My next note is Jesus Christ. He was scary as fuck as a roommate, as a neighbor.
yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my God, yeah.
I have a good amount of stuff on that. That's funny.
You were talking about how earlier when he was being a mooch with his buddy at college or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, I think it's that times a million where he's like knocking down fucking doors, like the wall between his neighbor, and he's like, "Fuck you!" He's like banging on his fucking door, like, "Fuck you, dude."
yeah.
I'd be fucking terrified to be his neighbor if that was the case.
I know.
That's what I was thinking the whole time. It's like, oh my god, like,
Yeah.
Well, they were
Admittedly,
talking.
yeah, I would too.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing like all the hard drugs like PCP and a bunch of nitrous, which I don't even know exactly what that does,
I don't either.
but it's you just like inhale it, and you have these little canisters, and I don't know if it's like, did you guys ever do air duster or anything?
No.
Ugh, I wish I hadn't, honestly, but I did a couple of times, and it's really, really bizarre. Like, you get this like uplifted feeling, and also like a disassociative, like you kind of like leave your body, and your whole body's like tingling, and it's really weird. It's like a really short moment of like ecstasy, in a way, not the drug ecstasy, but just like this like overwhelming feeling, and maybe it's like that, but. They were talking about how like he'd like take in the whole canister, like if you do air duster, it's just like, and then you're like, whoa, man! But he's just like down in it, like 30 seconds of just inhaling, and then he instantly like unscrews it and puts the next one on, and then does it over again, like
Without taking
right
a breath.
after. Yeah,
I'm not sure who they were interviewing, but yeah, he's like, he had it down to an art. He did it. He'd knock one back and switch it out in under 10 seconds and go for another.
Yeah. And that's just straight up killing brain cells, man. Like, and so like, he had no, like, he's already a wild card, but he's literally like damaging the part of his brain that is like inhibition and stuff. And I bet his neighbor was just like, God, this guy's always like playing loud music and like screaming, and he's probably just like, keep it down, you know, like other people live here.
Like a regular neighbor would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't control me, man. Fuck you. And he starts freaking out. And yeah, and I love, there was a line where he's super pissed and he's like, love thy neighbor, man. Fuck you. Like, like he's the victim, you know? Like, I love that mentality.
Exactly. I mean, while we're talking about the nitrous,
Yeah.
the most visual rock bottom moment outside of his own narration was after he had presumably just hit those exact two nitrous canisters, cartridges, whatever. There's a clip where he's just on the very edge of just blacking out.
Oh, yeah.
And he just looks like, honestly, he looks so pathetic in that moment.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, and they talked about how he was like realizing that, like they have the footage of him, kind of like nodding off, and then there's like a table with like every drug you can imagine just like splayed out on it. And
it's that exact moment. He's like, I remember looking at that table, seeing all these drugs, and being like, I'm gonna kill myself.
yeah, exactly. He's suicidal. He knows that it's a bottomless pit, basically. His family is like deeply concerned, and he makes this really scary video of like, just, I don't even know. It's basically just a big fuck you, but he's talking about like something about it's broken, and he like breaks like a mug and smashes it on the ground, and he's
Yeah.
just super pissed, and it's like
Something about like half full, half empty.
yeah, some weird something like that. Yeah, because the mug was like pre-broken, and he just like separates it and then throws it on the ground.
Yeah.
And God, just imagine them, man. Like, especially seeing how Vanilla or whatever his family is like, just like, oh, everything's fine, and then you're like, oh, is Steve-O doing okay? And then he just like just completely lashes out like a demon, literally from their eyes. You're like, oh my God, like we're just worried about you. We're not trying to like attack you. And
Yeah.
fuck, man. And
And it must be weird now, like being Steve-O and going back to like family gatherings or whatever, and being like,
oh yeah,
I really love you guys. Like at Christmas, he's like, open up your present. Like I'm really glad, you know.
I'm really happy so much.
Yeah. And then they're just like, wow, thanks. You've come a long way since, you know, like 2009 or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like,
I remember when you shit in a box and gave it to me 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder how he feels about that. Does he laugh it off? Like, does he apologize? Like, you know what I mean? Like, profusely, like, yeah, I just wish we could move on, Dad. Like, I gotta wonder about
yeah, you know
that.
it's his dad too. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
It feels like his dad, something his dad would bring up. Yeah. His dad seemed really like squirmy to me, man. Not squirmy, but like, I don't know.
He's kind of just got that, like, corporate, I don't know how to explain it. Like, just distant. I don't know.
He has an aura about him that I don't care for, but I don't know. That's just me.
No, I get it. So yeah, he's freaking out of the neighbor, and he's filming himself. Someone is filming him during all this. I don't know who. I was thinking that. Like, who's just hanging out while he's, like, throwing these tantrums?
His
and
former bodyguard.
No, that's probably who it was, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
He's, like, being paid to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, he's literally punching a hole through the wall to the neighbor's unit, you know. He's, like,
Pulling
ripping out
like,
the insulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane, man.
And so he stashes a camera in the apartment and is like filming himself getting arrested and all this, and spends a night in jail. He posts bail. He gets let out. And so he has this plot to either pull off a really big stunt or die trying, basically. And so he's back in that apartment that he just terrorized, and
He has
he
3
writes-
days to move out.
Yeah.
He's getting evicted, and so
That's-
he's like,
yeah,
this
that's
is
what
my
it is.
last hurrah, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like writing an email to all the Jackass guys, and it's kind of just like, goodbye. If you guys want to be here, here's what I want to do. And yeah, he wants to like ride like a motorbike, like through the apartment window on a ramp and try to land on the building next to it, basically, or just splatter on the ground if he doesn't make it. Like, it's kind of one or the other. And so I don't know. I feel like I keep talking.
No, you're good.
No, I think
That's
you have
exactly
the most thorough set of notes.
So they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Sounds like a good plan, man. Like, we'll be there. And so like Johnny Knoxville and whoever, they show up, and there's no cameras, there's no anything, and they're like, hey man, we're not filming today. Like, you know, we're gonna take you to a hospital, like a psych ward.
This is my favorite part because at first he's like, nah, like fuck you guys. This is crazy. You guys are shitting me.
Yeah.
And then apparently Knoxville like gets really pissed and like grabs the camera that he's using, like throws it down, and he's like, if you don't like fucking come, we're gonna knock you out and take you to the damn hospital. And he's just like, oh, okay, I'll go.
Yeah, like this whole intervention sequence is unintentionally hilarious. There's that whole heel turn of like, well, I mean, I don't want to get the shit kicked out of me. So, and then there was the quick line from one of the people being interviewed.
I think it's
And
Knoxville.
it's like, I've never seen Knoxville so pissed off.
Oh.
And then that line itself is kind of like, oh yeah. And then it cuts to just this still frame of him. And it's just hilarious.
Yeah, he has like the fucking biggest like frown, like the mad frown,
Oh,
mad mug kind of thing. My favorite line is though from Johnny Knoxville. He's like, he's not much of a fighter.
Yeah, I like that.
Immediately after,
Yeah.
he's like,
He's not violent or whatever. Yeah. See, but I found that really interesting. Like this guy that is so off the wall and ridiculous and hurts himself. Like, he doesn't want violence or like altercation or whatever. Like, it's all internal. Like, he'll hurt himself for attention, but he doesn't want to. It's for people to love him. Like, I don't know. It's really strange. Like, even when he's freaking out on his neighbor and he's like acting really violent, I bet if the neighbor actually retaliated, like, well, I don't know, actually. What do you think would have happened there? Like, is it just because those guys are his friends and that guy doesn't mean anything to him, the neighbor, or would he have backed off? I don't know.
Probably depends on like what he's on at that moment too.
That's true.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to imagine that moment, even just with your friends. If he's on something, it's got to be a very sobering moment in and of itself.
Yeah.
A lot of factors to. This is a thing for anybody, even if you're stone cold sober. I mean, if you're being mad at somebody that you know and you care about, it's a family member or a friend, is different than being mad at somebody you just met on the street or something. Like, if somebody cuts you off in traffic, you feel totally vindicated to be like, hey, you fucking asshole, like, I hope you die, I hope you fucking burn in a fire of hell.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're fighting with like somebody that you know,
yeah.
Well, you might feel like that, you're never gonna say that, and you're kind of, if they say something to like sober you up out of your rage kind of thing.
Yeah, and you're both kind of like,
yeah, you both kind of immediately pull back. So
yeah, exactly. Same with coming to a red light with the person you get pissed off at, and then you're like, I didn't really mean it that much. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
I hate those moments. Like,
yeah.
You're just like, oh man, I think I dropped something. Like, you're just like trying to not make eye contact at all. You're just like bending over and kind of.
Yeah. Fuck, dude. My new thing now, when I like get cut off for somebody, I always just like pull up both my hands or as much as I can without like being irresponsible as a driver, and I just clap like,
oh yeah,
good job, man.
I like that.
Really proud of you. And I don't know if that's like, if they get what I'm trying to do. It's
it's probably better for you, and at least like,
yeah, it's a lot less anger inducing to clap at them rather than flip them off.
I like that. I'm gonna try that.
So, just like, yeah, doing really good, man.
Yeah, got
Right,
what you
driver.
wanted. Like.
Hell yeah, dude.
Huh? That's a pretty good philosophy, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just came to me, you know. But
so he gets put in the one center. He kind of just bounces around from one to the next. I don't know if we really need to drive that too hard. Like, he's suicidal. He's trying to sober up. He goes from one psych ward to like a care center. I don't really know the differences and all that.
he realizes how shitty he's been the last few.
Yeah.
It's the rehab story that,
Yeah.
you know.
I think, wasn't he on like Celebrity Rehab or one of those shows? I feel like
There's a brief moment in there where he says he does something along that line.
Yeah, I swear he did. I feel like I remember watching that on VH1 a long time ago. But yeah, at any rate, he's cleaning up and all that, and
I didn't know he was on Dancing with the Stars. That was part of it.
I didn't know that either.
He gets a call to be on Dancing with the Stars, and he's really nervous about it because it's his first like gig back after becoming sober or whatever.
Yeah,
first big gig, and apparently he was really bad at it, but he got enough like phone-in votes that he stayed on, even though the judges were like, "We can't have him."
Yeah. He stayed on for 6 weeks. They said,
Yeah,
it was probably pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, but
and they had they refer to the ex-girlfriend Tracy, and she's like looking all fondly, like, yeah, it was so funny because that's what I fell in love with him was his dancing, and he was a better dancer back then. Like, she's still just fawning over him big time. Like, it's so funny.
I did, yeah, I noticed that too. It was like, it's cute because that was our touchstone.
Yeah, that was our thing.
That's funny.
I just remember too the goldfish thing, like his first moment on camera with the guys. Like, he couldn't even say his name because he was so nervous. Like, he was all meek and just kind of like Johnny Knoxville had to introduce him, and he like doesn't really say anything, and he just like downs the goldfish, and so he came a long way, like from going from that to filming himself punching a hole in the wall. Like, it's a huge arc. Like,
That's a good point.
I don't know. I just barely realized that. Because I was just thinking he was all nervous with Dancing with the Stars, and he kind of had to go back to, like, rediscovering how to be in the spotlight in a way. Like,
Yeah.
and, yeah, I don't know.
That is true. That was quite the journey he took
Yeah.
with the being in the spotlight and understanding what that's like, and not being afraid to introduce yourself, so to speak, in the world of entertainment. So,
Well, and you made a good point, like, about how he would respond, like, being violent with his neighbor. Like, it depends on what he's on, you know? And that's kind of an interesting thing with him, is some part of him was always, like, that anxious guy. And he was, like, using the drugs to propel himself, like, past, like, that fear, you know, to, like... But ultimately, he realized he didn't have to do that. And then after the Dancing with the Stars, Jackass 3D, they want to make another Jackass movie. And everyone's kind of asking, like, is he going to be funny? Like, what's it going to be like now that he's all sober and everything? And they didn't really know. And they're nervous, and he's nervous, and that's where that line comes up. Like, one of the first, like, things they shot with him, I guess, was just, like, hitting him in the nuts with a baseball, essentially. Like, it's a little more than that, but not really. And he's like, why do I have to be Steve-O? And they're all laughing because they're like, yeah, man, like, we're here with you. Like, you're here with us now. Like, you're not, like, this distant, like, crazy man. Like,
yeah.
you know, you're kind of having to, like, own up to it. And it's funny because that's kind of where we've been at this whole time. And it's kind of like, welcome to the party. You know, like,
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I got the how happy they felt filming 3D.
Yeah.
Was just because of his sobrieties. It's like there was a newfound feeling of happiness for all of them and stuff.
Definitely.
Because that had to have an effect on previous interactions that they had. I mean, obviously, because Knoxville wouldn't have been like, "Hey, fuck you! Like, we're gonna take you to the hospital," if it weren't for like, negative interactions in the past or whatever, you know.
True.
And so 3D is just a culmination of, like, in a way, it's kind of Steve-O's, like a cap on sobriety, not necessarily like it's the end where he can just go back to that old lifestyle or whatever, but it's kind of like it's a celebration of where he's become with sobriety, and they're all kind of sharing in that moment.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know.
Well, and it had a more, like, lighthearted. It was less destructive. It was like, how can we be crazy but not, like, destroy ourselves in a way that's kind of, like, dark, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a little more, like, wacky, or just, like, I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely a, like, tone shift.
Yeah. A tonal shift.
Responsibly made Jackass.
Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect, yeah.
Yeah. What a crazy cycle. It's like full circle, you know? He comes back around to having to do it in a more, like, productive way, oddly.
Yeah. So my note is, like, sobriety can be like a reawakening to people's bad handwriting, to people's careers.
Yeah, my notes are messy. I'm, like, trying to figure out what they say.
I saw Logan on the camera just kind of giving his notes on what the fuck is that earlier.
Nice.
Exactly. I don't know. I wish I knew, like, Quickhand. I didn't know Quickhand was an actual, like, different language, so to speak.
I was thinking
it's really
that
interesting.
earlier.
It's like just like scratches on paper that mean words. It's really interesting. But pretty much it ends really quick. They're like, oh, he's gotten sober and now he's doing okay and hopefully he stays okay. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it ends.
He starts doing stand-up, and he's vegan now. He's an activist and an author.
Yeah.
And it's all good.
Yeah.
Movie's over. Like,
And I think this is like 10-ish years old, and it's pretty old. And I think now he's just pretty much doing everything into stand-up. I think that's mostly what he does now. It's just stand-up comedy. So
Yeah, that stand-up album I had come across looking on Apple Music was just from 2016. So
Oh, yeah. I saw him actually at Wise Guys in maybe like 2017 or something. I didn't realize it was that. I wonder if it's the same material. I should go listen to it. It seemed pretty like rehearsed and stuff, but not in a bad way. It was mostly like stories of like things that we never saw or heard about or anything, and so it wasn't just like, what do you call what's the deal? Like it was Steve-O, like it's him like talking about his life, like it was good.
That's pretty much all he could do. I mean, at that point, I mean, sure he could do more of the what's the deal if he wanted to, but when you're Steve-O, you're kind of like, it's kind of odd if you don't talk about your life, kind of thing.
Yeah. I vaguely remember there was a story about him having to like fly somewhere and like hiding a bag of weed in his ass.
I was going to bring that up when he was doing Wild Boys. I was like, I think that's where a lot of his tricks as to hiding drugs between borders kind of.
I think so.
Where that came from.
And then at the end, they like set up a table, and he like got naked and like drove the table or whatever. He like jumped into the table or something, or he jumped off of it, or I don't remember. I remember he was naked, and there was something about a table and jumping, but I don't remember now.
In the comedy that you saw?
Yeah, like at the end of his stand-up.
See, I'm amazed that all these comedians can just get butt-ass naked on stage and there's no repercussions.
Yeah.
Like, Eric Andre did the same thing. Like, at the end of his set,
nice.
he just pulled down his pants and he did the, like, mangina thing with his dick.
Yeah.
And he was just like, look at this shit. And then he ran off stage.
Yeah,
and
that's pretty much what Steve-O did.
I'm just like, in my mind, I was like, oh shit, like the wise guys, the people at the comedy club that run it, they're gonna be pissed about it because they're gonna have to like pay some fine or whatever. Apparently, it's not an uncommon thing, so apparently they don't get in trouble. So
I guess not.
I don't know, man.
Well, and those are always, there's always like an early show and a late show, and it's Friday and Saturday. So I wonder if the waitresses and shit are like, oh, here comes the dick again. Like,
yeah. Well, I was going, maybe they only do that for the late Saturday show.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe
they're
so.
like, I'm out of town. See ya. You guys deal with it.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I don't know. But,
yeah.
I don't know.
real quick, I'm doing a quick look at just what he's up to these days mostly.
Yeah.
And he has a YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
Just uploaded a video today, 9 hours ago, and it seems like he owns up and he's fairly self-aware of just his past. There's a video called breaking down every drug I ever did.
Nice.
The stories of his failed interventions. He also has a podcast.
Naturally.
As of a week ago, he uploaded an episode with Wee Man.
Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name? Jason Acuna or something? Anyway.
I don't know.
That's actually where I saw him talk about the failed rap career, if you guys want to see that video too. So
okay.
It's titled My Failed Rap Career on the Steve-O channel.
Nice. Oh, I was right. Jason Acuna. Sorry. My failed rap career. Yeah, I got to listen to that. That's his podcast, or where?
It's just a video of him talking about it. He's like laying on the bed with Wendy or whatever.
Nice.
Just
on YouTube?
talking about it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to check
I think his podcast is called Wild Ride.
Okay.
Which is an apt name for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm looking at his Instagram now. His wife is smoking, man. I'm sorry, but good for him, you know? I mean,
it's true.
it seems like a pretty, like, wholesome life. It's like them hanging out with all their dogs and him smiling.
I have a lot of respect for this guy and where he's come from and where he's at now.
Yeah.
He's closer, actually, I guess, to, as a kid, he was really into Motley Crue, and apparently Nikki Sixx was, like, really crazy with drugs or whatever. You would know more about that. So maybe there's maybe there's something with that destiny. He met Nikki Sixx or whatever. I don't know. I'm just talking bullshit. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I was thinking about it this whole time after they mentioned Motley Crue in that documentary. There's like a giant parallel you could draw between the two.
Huh.
So yeah, even though we didn't talk about Nikki Sixx, we talked about his protege. we'll say.
Yeah, that is funny. That's so weird it came around like that. Like,
Well, I mean, just real quick, there's a line in this bio where he's saying Motley Crue's about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and then I believe it's a separate line, but the two correlate very well. He's like, I went on this journey for sex, drugs, and rock and roll or whatever, and he's like, I don't think I'd be disappointed in what I found.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I got what I wanted, but he kind of had this, like, distant look about him. You know? He's like, got everything, but it wasn't, like, yeah.
It got to be too much after a while.
I don't
There's
feel
just
like...
a crazy juxtaposition between
Yeah.
the Steve-O we were seeing in the videos and the one that was being interviewed.
True.
What I also found interesting, speaking of like juxtaposition, is a lot of the people that were with Jackass, and they're talking about like the person he did Wild Boys with, I forgot his name, but like whenever he would talk about like how debaucherous things were, like he'd have a giant smile on his face, like that was a crazy time in my life, you know, because he hasn't been what Steve-O's been through, and so when Steve-O talks about it, he's kind of like down to earth. He has a very like straight face, and he's talking about like, yeah, it was a crazy time. Whereas the other dude's like, it's a crazy time, man. Like,
Yeah.
It's just wild days, man.
Interesting when you don't have to live it, but when you don't have to live with the severely bad outcomes from that lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, you can look back on it with fond memories, like, you know, the people that didn't get rushed to the hospital at the party can look back at that party and say, that was a great party, but the person that got rushed to the hospital is like, oh shit, that was terrible.
It's like a life-changing moment for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't feel like he would like take it all back though, you know. Like
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think he's like satisfied with his legacy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't have any closing thoughts for you guys on this. We kind of did this last minute because we thought we were running out of time, and we were like, oh, it'll be quick and easy.
Yeah.
And we ended up going almost 2 hours.
Of course.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
But all right, well, this has been Vice of Life, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Usually you guys chime in.
I thought you had cut it off already.
Bye, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Do your Steve-O goodbye. There we go.
Bye, Dad. Gnarly, bro. See, I don't have it now. Yeah, Dad. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Vice of Life. Feel free to get in touch with us on Instagram and Twitter at Vice of Life Pod. Our new YouTube channel at Vice of Life. Patreon, you can check us out, and it's just Vice of Life on there. Email us at viceoflifepodcast@gmail.com, and leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen. And just make sure to subscribe to the show for more.